person for that particular community to kind of rally support around that. So I just would be curious, maybe get a little bit more information about Eric's co-sponsor of the bill and what maybe some of his motivations are, because I understand there's also some ties to some deep pocket foundations that are helping to support that. So I just would like to get your perspective and a little bit more information.
I can't tell you anybody's motivation. You'd have to ask them yourself. I talked to Senator Tom, and I did say this is a very large bill, and he explained to me it was written by a broad coalition of people. He himself and Mr. Pettigrew did not. I don't know how much of it that they wrote.
Most legislators don't write their own bills. So.
Well, yeah, okay. And just to say, you know, I personally, going through the bill, I see many things that I personally find troubling. I think it's a very large, unwieldy bill. I was kind of surprised at it. The thing that, as I said before, that really troubles me is this idea that you could have multiple charters approved for educationally disadvantaged kids, and say there's 30 of them, and then you think to yourself, well, you got to get the 10 best ones. Like, you got to pick KIP. They all go in a lottery, and even KIP could get aced out by a simple pull of that instead of somebody looking at it the second time. I wish they'd written that into the law, because I think that would serve those kids better.
Speaking to your "this isn't the bill" comment, the one thing that really, really alarmed me was the transformation zone thing, which is the superintendent of public instruction would have to transfer running of schools over to EMOs, 10 minimum, would have to do it. And it doesn't look like there's any process for the community to give input if they don't want their school to be run by an EMO. So that is the persistently failing schools, and I believe Rainier Beach might be one. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that there is an avenue for a public comment on that.
No, well, not in the bill.
Two different points. There, as you probably heard the expression, the legislative process is a sausage-making process. I mean, so everything that's being raised, you know, you could propose revisions to the bill. If you have ideas how to write the bill better, send them in. I mean, this bill it's not even out of committee, even though the votes on committee are 7-5 to push it out of committee. It's just the chairperson who's holding it up. As far as Eric Pettigrew and him being token, I really can't disagree with that enough. If you look at his background, if you look at how he testified, if you look at what he's saying, this is really coming from a place of personal passion that he has for this issue. If you look at his circumstance, if you look at his upbringing, if you listen to his testimony, and if you consider the extraordinary political heat he's taking for this isn't a smart move for him politically. And which, again, to me, only bolsters his authenticity as to his passion. It would be really easy for him to be against this issue, but he's for it, and he's taking extraordinary flack for it.
And just a clarification, Kristen mentioned EMOs. For those of you that might not know what that means, it is
Education management organizations, so also learning management organizations is another name for it. And it's basically a for-profit or non-profit corporation.
They're only non-profits. They are only learning.
In this bill.
Yeah.
In this bill, learning management organizations are non-profit, but EMOs could be either.
I forgot whose hand was next. Oh, back and then Marianne.
Thank you. Hello. I'm a hard-working West Seattle High School teacher. I'm very proud of the gains my special education department is making, and I'm very proud of the Seattle School District and the gains that all our students are making across the board. And I would probably dispute that we're creating many charter schools with the innovation memorandum of understanding that was voted on last night. This is something different from charter schools, and there is still some divisiveness. People don't quite understand what's going on, and there'll probably need to be some fixes there. But what I am concerned about with charter schools and the people who are putting them forward is that, frankly, I don't think people know about the wonderful innovation that we're doing in Seattle schools. People like to look at the bad stuff, and I think there's a lot of talk about serving minority kids and closing the achievement gap, but I think it's not really coming from the most altruistic perspective. I also think that it's union busting, and I think it's anti-teacher. And if you look at the statistics for the majority of teachers, most of them are women over 40. So I think there's some gender discrimination, and there's some age discrimination that's going on with the whole anti-teacher sentiment that is behind any school, charter school or not, that would only be recruiting younger teachers. So I think that there's a lot more talking that needs to be done about all the sentiments behind the charter school movement. And I sympathize with Eric Pettigrew. I'm from a poor family too, single mother. I went to public schools. They saved my life, and I'm in the business of helping kids get into college. I'm out there working 60 hours a week, and I know that the teachers who are sitting here right now too, that they work as much as I do. And if people in the community got involved with their public schools and could really see what was going on,
thank you.
Then we wouldn't.
Okay. With the tiny number of charter schools we're talking about, rolling out 10 statewide per year, what are the proposals as to where those schools are placed and which, communities and which groups of kids and which demographic? I mean, statewide, 10 schools, how is that prioritized?
Well, as I said, overall in the United States, most charters are in urban districts. I would think that most of the charter proposals will come to Seattle, Spokane, Tacoma, the larger districts. And like I said, written within the bill is a bump for charter proposals that will serve educationally disadvantaged students. So you can sort of get an idea what might happen there. But in terms of saying who's going to get where, that's a very difficult thing because there's multiple authorizers and it just depends on who. But people from out-of-state charters want to come into Washington State, so I think we're going to have a plethora of proposals. It just depends on which ones get picked.
Paula?
Is it 10 million for the 5 years, or is it 10 to 15 million for each year? There's each year, so it's 50 to whatever math.
Yes, it's pretty.
I went to private school, so I can't count.
Shannon?
I just want to say thank you, all three of you, for coming. It was very informative. It really helped me out a lot. And as a new PTA member, / board member, I have a question for our PTA. What do we plan to do with the information that we're gathering tonight? What are our next steps in our school? What are we going to do next?
I do not see our co-presidents. Does any board member want to address that? Or Amy?
So obviously this has been a hot topic, and there are some things that will be discussed amongst the board and possible proposals that will be brought to their membership to be voted on. I know that there were some emails going around about it today, just kind of regarding where the PTA stands in terms of what the Washington PTA's views are. So that will be probably coming up. I believe it was said that will be discussed at the March board meeting and presented to general membership in April.
I think Kristen just had a handout that's going around.
I only made 20.
Okay, Ken?
I think in general the board had lots of questions about the charter schools, just like everybody else in the general PTA does. This is a first step for us to go ahead and get things on the table and listen to both arguments. So we're going to take this just like everybody else is and kick it around a little bit.
I just wanted to say that, it's getting an education so that you can decide your pro or your con side. And I write for a blog, Seattle Schools Community Forum, and if you go to that page right to the right, I did a series on charters, history of, landscape today, federal law, special ed, ELL, and written in a neutral tone, just to try to inform you, because there's just, you know, you need to be informed before you can make your own choices.
No.
I think just the most important thing is to start getting a handle on these basic concepts. Since we've never had charter schools, we need to know we really need to know what they are.
Just two quick things. If you want even more information about charter schools, Region 6, PTA is having a forum at the end of the month, February 29th. I have flyers. I'll have my wonderful helper Thomas take those around. And that's it.
I vote Thomas gets all the extra payment.
Yes. Any last quick question? Pam.
There was a reference that I think it was the KIPP school gets $18,500 per student per year. What does Seattle school get?
Can you repeat that question?
How much money does Seattle school get per child?
I'm going to look to your principal. I think it's about $9,200.
So where does that extra money come from?
Private grants. Private grants. One of the most highly touted charter schools in the United States is the Harlem Children's Zone, and it's got complete wraparound services. They get granting up to $23,000 a kid.
From private? Is that?
Well, for the money they get as a charter school, and then privately. And of course, there's no way to scale that.
So there's something going around, and it was a resolution on public education funding. This was a resolution passed by the Olympic View PTA, and I understand Ingram High School has also passed such a resolution.
Just really quick on the funding. Keep in mind, and you're right, I mean, the per student with KIPP is higher because of the private foundation piece, but many of our school districts have the same thing. There's a Seattle one, there's a Lake Washington one. I know in Issaquah, for example, their foundation pays for the science curriculum in Issaquah district. So I mean, that kind of thing, and that's a whole different issue, and it's a worthy one for discussion, but it's my only point is that's not unique to charter schools.
Amy, is it 8 o'clock yet? If you have kids in the library, please go grab them because we are done. We paid them till 8. And if our panelists can stay for just a quick second. Did I see Dana had a question?
Oh, she said there's a Seattle Foundation. And I noticed there's PTAs that they've used amounts of money, but what foundation?
No, I said I didn't know. I know that there's an Issaquah one. I know there's a Lake Washington one. I know that there's a North Shore one. I don't know if there's a Seattle Schools Foundation one or not.
Okay, everybody, I just want to thank Melissa Westbrook, Kristen King, Beth Segal, Tom Segal very, very much for being here presenting. And thank you all for coming. This was fabulous. Looks like we could have gone on a little bit longer, but oh well, we got school tomorrow.